time of year. Like,
are we doing this?
no, we're not doing that. Nope. Sorry, you don't get it.
Bummer!
Sorry.
I was practicing for nothing.
Come on, bro. Hello and welcome to film room number 2. I got Chad Snader with me again. Chad shot this monster buck here that I'm staring at in a little bit of jealousy, but that's okay. So Chad was, he had his GoPro on his bow. We're going to jump through that footage today and we'll diagnose kind of what he did and what happened. And then also we'll go through one of my doe kills that I got. So let's jump right in. You want to set the stage a little bit?
Okay, so the day I shot this guy was November 12th. All throughout, it was kind of an up and down season as far as buck sightings and kind of how my whole season went. But so this day, it was November 12th. We started out. It was windy and cold. So I hunted. I kind of made the mistake of hunting on top of the ridge. It wasn't windy, kind of down where, you know, we park and stuff, but it was windy on top of the ridge. Got up there, I sat the morning kind of like, you know, one of those mornings where you don't have confidence in your spot. Wind was blowing. It was cold, which is kind of ironic for the day that it was, because it ended up being a really warm day. But anyways, so it was blowing like crazy. It was a spot that I was sitting in at a good rut spot. But it's November 12th. Like, you got to be up a tree, right?
Yep.
And it was a slow morning. Didn't see a deer all morning. Wind was blowing, about blowing me out of the tree. I was like, you know what? This is crazy. So I think it was around lunchtime, I got down out of my tree and decided to do some scouting. Went to a spot where there's like a big hemlock tree that they normally scrape underneath.
Okay.
And so I was like, well, I'm going to go there and see if the scrape was active or not. Walked over there. There was a scrape there, but it didn't look like it was worked real often. And made a loop around there and found a good size rub, which isn't nothing out of the ordinary. But I found a good size rub. Walked over, checked it out, and looked about 10 yards further and seen another like good size rub. And so when I see two rubs that close together, you know, I start to see a little bit of a pattern.
Yeah.
Ended up being able to follow that rub line down kind of the angle it was going. It strung out to be about 5 rubs within, I don't know, probably 50 yards.
Okay. Nice.
That's when I backed out, and it kind of angled down towards a spot that we have down on the other side of the ridge, and there was multiple places I could have went, but this being the back of my mind, went out the ridge further to check some cams. Cams were a little bit slow. Trail cameras were, and then was still contemplating on where I wanted to go, but in the back of my mind I had this rub line that was kind of angled down towards a spot that we had set a permanent set down over the back side of the mountain. So by this time the wind had calmed down. It's 70-degree day, and I believe I snuck in there around 1:30. I believe it was 1:30 or 1 o'clock, somewhere around there. Got the wind right, which is one thing that I really tried to do this year, pay attention to more this year than previous years, as in it's one thing to like play the wind in your tree, but when you're sneaking into a spot, of really using that wind to your advantage, of like to get into the spot. Like, I actually swung a little bit wider than I normally would to get that wind just right. And the way it was working, the way the thermals were drawing up the bottom there, it was ideal to go loop around. But anyways, so 70-degree day, November 12th, got into the tree. I think I got into the tree around 1:30. I got up in there, still kind of like, this is kind of a waste of a day. It's kind of a, you know, the whole thing that goes through your mind. Didn't see a deer all day long. Trail cameras were dead.
Was this the last Saturday of archery?
Yeah.
Because the last Saturday was super warm.
Yeah. No, it wasn't the last. Okay. It might have been. It was the last week of archery, I know.
Okay. Because I know the day that I shot mine, it was super warm. That was the last Saturday.
Yeah.
But I forget. Anyway. I guess
Anyways, it is what it is. We should really learn our dates a little bit better, I guess. But anyways, and so
it was in the season. That's all we know. It was in season.
it was in season. So up the tree. I've only been sitting for maybe, it was like a half hour. Had a little bit of a lunch. Have your what's your favorite tree stand lunch?
Meat and cheese.
That's solid. Meat and cheese. I'm a PB&J guy.
Yeah, okay, I can see that.
During the season, like two PB&Js, an apple, some snacks, some Reese's cups. Anyways, so I had my PB&J, had my apple, right, sitting there, and I was just enjoying my sit, but also kind of disappointed because I didn't see a deer all day.
Yeah.
Anyways, looked up, seen a big-bodied deer, seen the flash of this deer, and knew right away which deer it was. Off of this kicker right here. And I had pictures of this deer all throughout I think I got the first picture of him in May. And so I had pictures of him all throughout May into June. He was consistent going to a spot. And then he went dark about end of July, I think. And I just figured, that transition of when, bucks start breaking up.
Yeah.
I figured just kind of like any other summertime bachelor group, he was with some other bucks, and they just kind of disperse out, and they just kind of move away into different areas. But then I had gotten a picture of him maybe 2 or 3 weeks before, so it was good to see that he was back. But still, again, it was probably from where I ended up shooting him, probably over a half mile away is when I got the last picture of him. But still thinking he was a roamer. But anyways, I seen which buck it was right away. Knew what we had to deal with. And so, I don't know, are we going to roll into the footage?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's watch it.
And break it down a little bit.
Yeah, so where's the deer going to be popping up
So
here?
the deer will be off to the right side of my stabilizer there. Okay, so there's a little bit of a draw at the edge of some thick stuff and some hemlocks. A good rut funnel, pretty much. So the buck's right there at the end of my stabilizer.
Center screen,
I'd say there he was about 30 yards, a little farther than that. GoPro really distorts it.
Yeah.
But for me, it's about capturing memories and not high quality footage. So it's pretty cool to look back on stuff. So he's coming in there. He's about 20 yards there. There's my shot.
So it wasn't drawn out. Like, it's not like...
No, I didn't have a whole lot of time from when I seen the deer to when he came into range.
Yeah. Let's watch that back again.
All right. Now the shot was quartering towards. He popped around that tree, and just the way the stand was placed, there's cover there, but when I went down and stood where he was standing and look up, which is a good tip to set your stands and imagine you're a deer and you're pop around somewhere and you look up. And I was skyline pretty bad, so that was one thing that I needed to maybe address for another year.
I know that skylining is something that is so hard sometimes depending on where you're hunting.
In different times of the year too, and the last thing you if you're you're hunting early season, there's leaves on the trees. You always try to find your cover, but we're November 12th. There's not even a leaf on the tree anymore.
There's nothing around.
So it's really fun hunting in hemlocks and stuff like that, where you can tuck yourself up into a hemlock tree and get some cover, or even finding a bigger tree that you can at least hide yourself up against the tree, kind of. And so actually, when he was coming in, I was sitting down. I was able to get my bow out, and the way he just turned right in, I actually ended up standing up, and then kind of had to crouch a little bit, just the way everything worked out. There was a branch in front of me a little bit.
Gotcha.
But,
so you were
yeah, I was kind of up and down a little bit, but that wasn't the cause of him, seeing me in the tree. It was definitely a skyline thing.
Yeah.
But he was quartering towards. I know in the previous video we kind of went through a little bit of my arrow setup and bow setup. So I'm shooting a 6mm FMJ, 100 grain G5 striker, and the whole setup comes around. It's just shy of 500 grains, so we're at it's 490 something, I believe.
Okay. And
so
that's all set up for max penetration.
Right, basically. And I don't have a problem. So on him, I tucked it, pretty much right on the shoulder. I ended up going through the back side of the scapula, Like, so not the main thick part of the shoulder, but the backside of the scapula. Blew right through him, and I knew it was, you know, I knew it was a kill shot. But like when you have an arrow that goes through the guts like that, because it did come out the guts just the way it was angled, you're always gonna want to give him time. So I actually gave him an hour after the shot just to make sure, calm myself down a little bit because I was pretty jacked up about it. And then was able to watch on my GoPro footage of where he ran and was able to pick that last spot because I knew there wasn't going to be a lot of blood on a shot like that, and walk to that spot, which was the sweet part about filming your hunts, even if it's nothing special, putting a GoPro on your bow or however you want to rig it up. I've used it multiple times to be able to like figure out, you know, which tree you ran by or something like that.
To remember that in the moment is very
right,
difficult.
right.
Especially if you don't have a lot of blood.
Right. So I walked right to that spot where he was, looked over, and he was standing. I mean, he was dead. He was laying 30 yards from there. So it was pretty cool to be able to walk him like that. And by the time I got up to him, he was stiff already.
And then you got this big old bad Larry.
Right.
It's like touching. Like, I don't know if you guys can see that. Like, it's about as big as my middle finger until they're touching. Like, that's just a sweet deer. That thing's awesome. And we're recording this in, end of February. So a pretty quick turnaround time from your taxidermist.
It's a pretty quick turnaround time.
So
I was excited to get him back.
Looks real good. Yes, sir.
Yeah, shout out to Turkey Hill Wildlife. He did a good job on the skull. But yeah, I was excited to get him back, and it was definitely a hunt that I won't forget for a long time.
There you are, sir. Your trophy. It's about time I get myself one of them.
Oh, one of these years you're gonna.
5 years.
You're gonna find out.
It's been 5 years since I got that one. Anyway, let's jump into my stuff.
All right, let's roll into your hunt.
Disclaimer: first deer in 4 years. You ever read the story Bambi? It didn't have spots, but it was close. Anyway, so this was the last Saturday in November, whatever it was. It was right around that same time. It was warm, very warm. In the morning, basically on the other side of this field is where I sat in a ladder stand, really high ladder stand, and it's in a little tree.
Yeah.
And there was no ladder stabilization on it. So I'm like going up this ladder, and I'm like almost like backwards on it. It was just because the tree was so far away. It's on a field edge. There's not really many trees there. Anyway, so it was great, but it was kind of windy. In the morning, I saw a buck. It was a 6-point. I think it's the same 6-point that we'll see here a little bit later. That would have came up probably 50 yards from where I was sitting here in the evening. So I saw a buck in the morning, but it didn't really come close enough to get any kind of shot at it. So then in the afternoon, came up on the top side of this food plot here. It's just like grasses. Like this is one of my buddy's places, but he didn't really till anything, didn't put anything. It's just grasses.
Just kind of grass and
stuff.
stuff.
It's grasses, and they just come
just graze on it. And...
Yeah. So this was, I'm not sure what exactly it was. Before dark, of course. You'll see here as the footage goes on, it gets a little bit darker, but it was still decent light. So I don't know what time it was, 4:30 or something like that, maybe. Anyway, so what you're going to see here is this white circle on the right. That is where the doe is coming through originally here. So let's start that. If you hear like a factory in the background, it's because it is a factory.
Suburban hunting.
Suburban hunting, yeah. This is my first time suburban hunting. It was definitely a little different. So this is a little doe, like just the smallest thing you ever did see. Maybe I'm a monster, maybe I'm not, but I haven't shot a deer in 4 years. So I got my camera arm behind me at this point because just the way that this deer was coming in, it's really difficult to get my camera arm out to my right side and come down across. So I had my camera on my left side of me and coming down. So like right here, I like pulled back and I was like, shoot, I don't have my GoPro on. So then I like quick put it back and then put my GoPro on. And I put a timer up there so you can see how long I'm drawn. Because this deer, it might look a little better, but I don't really have a shot there. So I'm like waiting, just like need like one more step.
Yeah.
One more step. I'm just waiting.
there's a lot of deer's lives that have been spared by the one more step deal.
Yeah.
It's kind of, you know, they don't take that last step.
Right. It's just. So I'm just waiting here at this point. It's like, well, it was like 20 yards at this point. It's like she's looking back at another doe currently. She's kind of watching them to see what they do. And we just wait. Cause
So what, are you getting a little shaky by now?
yeah, a little bit. And yeah, then she starts coming up underneath me. I was like, oh, like now what are we doing? And then she like kind of busts. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. Like now what? It's like, all right. So I withdrew or whatever, went down, and then I saw. I don't even know what I said there. I should have actually made it audible. Anyway, then there was a doe on this larger doe was on the right side, and I thought she was gonna come over towards me, and then you'll see her right there. She popped onto the right side of the screen, and she kind of heads down in the middle, kind of gallops her way down through. And there's like 4 or 5 deer on the bottom side of the food plot. You can kind of see one in the top left there, kind of nosing around. So there's a couple deer down there, and then there's this. It's a 6-point that starts coming down the same trail that first doe was coming on, and then he follows the scent of that larger doe down towards the middle a little bit. So I was really hoping he would come by, but he didn't come by because he went down the other one. So you should see him here any second. There he is. So he pops out and starts heading down through that one. And I thought about grunting at him, but I was like, well, if he's on, if he's going that, like if he's on the trail that hard, probably not gonna be able to do much with it.
Right.
And then it was like a minute or two later, I was like, I heard this crunch like behind you from that little doe again, and I was like, all right, okay. So now my camera arm's behind me. It's mounted on my right side. It's behind me. So now I gotta like change this thing to this side. And the hard thing was I couldn't see my screen. So
right.
the screen's on the left side of the camera.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right,
Yeah.
I got it over here, and I'm just gonna bring it all the way out. It's 4K. I can do the editing afterwards. So I like brought it over as far as I could, get it out of my way. And then I had the GoPro up there on my bow, turned it on right there. Boy, that's a problem. We'll be right back. All right. Sorry about that. Computer died. Anyway. So right there, I turned my GoPro back on for the doe. The doe's going to pop out on your right side, kind of on the trail you kind of see there. So right there, she pops out. Goes behind this little bit of brush right here. I'm like quick hooking up. She's behind that tree right there. So now we wait for the steps again.
You got some sweet angles going on here. That's awesome.
Just like that.
Right through.
Yeah, it was a pass through as far as I'm aware. It seems like we were discussing a little bit before, like what happened with you can see how the luminop kind of moves. See how it moves back so far, but we're kind of thinking that's like.
I got hung up on the other side, just in the fletchings, and yeah.
So, yeah, I think it was a liver shot, honestly. But yeah, she didn't go very far because the lungs were fine and the heart was fine.
So you were just back a little bit?
Yeah, I was back a little bit. But she only went like 60 yards or something. And it was a little deer, so didn't have to lose a lot of blood.
Right.
So it was, let's go frame by frame just because we can.
Oh yeah, of course, you got to. When you put this much work in like Morgan does and get all these sweet angles, you have to look at it frame by frame.
Good, this up. Okay, now. There comes my arrow.
She actually moves on you a little bit.
Yeah, that's true. She does. You can see that right there.
And a lot of times a deer's gonna go down and away.
Like opposite of where their head's going is facing.
Well, if you have a deer, you as a viewer is gonna see, it's gonna go down and away from where the shot's coming from.
Oh, away from where the shot's coming from. Yeah,
right. So in that case, same deal.
Right.
Shot goes and down and away.
You can actually.
You actually might have got her when she was turning right there.
Okay, yeah, because she was probably
She went from almost broadside to, man, she turned inside out on you.
Well, I think it's in the ground there, isn't it? Like, it
Oh.
goes in right there.
Yeah, you're right.
And then it pops out and you see it.
Yeah.
And then she drags it over.
Oh. It must have got hung up on the other side.
Yeah.
That's cool. We can go back and look at all that. That's awesome.
That's fun. I had shot at it on the first day of archery, and we did this,
Right.
and I thought that I saw blood on the arm, on
Oh, really?
the leg.
Nothing.
There was nothing. I missed the deer. I'll show. Me and Derek are gonna do a video someday
All right.
on does ducking arrows because we have some annoyingly good footage. So yeah, that was kind of my experience. First deer shot on camera. So yeah, she went 60 yards up there. And then I'll show you my picture here that I have. I'll show you how small this deer is. I'm not sure what I do here. It's weird the things you do when you're.
Oh yeah, when your adrenaline's all jacked up.
I gotta put a plug in here for neck gaiters. If I could support one piece of hunting clothing, neck gaiters are my favorite.
Really? You're a neck gaiter guy?
Oh, like they keep you so warm. Like I was literally wearing basically like a short sleeve shirt and this thin thing because it was like 70 degrees.
Right.
So like that's all I was wearing, and a neck gaiter.
And a neck gaiter.
I
don't like neck gaiters.
I don't know, dude. I'm a fan. I'm a big fan. So there's it's not the best picture in the world. It looks like I have my eyes closed, but my bow was bigger than the deer. I'm not even kidding. My bow was bigger than the deer. So, but I picked that deer up. I grabbed all four legs in one hand and picked it up.
Yeah.
Like it was that little. But hey,
that's meat in the freezer, right?
Meat on the grill. Is what
there
I'm
we go.
talking
Meat
about.
in the grill.
Look at them back straps. They're tiny.
Oh yeah. Dude, I like how you skip the freezer part and go right to the grill.
Yeah, that's right. That was the next day, Sunday afternoon.
Oh yeah.
There was some good.
So I got a question for you. So I know you said it's been 4 years since you shot a deer, but not to rub that in your face.
No.
But like filming, what kind of craziness goes on in the tree compared to like I've been in situations already where like, well, this deer included, like you're jacked up, you're excited. But like I can't imagine, like for me running a GoPro, and we're gonna get into maybe this is getting down the weeds of the filming thing, but like me on a GoPro, push the button, I'm good to go. I don't need to think about it anymore. But you got camera arms, you got second angles, which like you put a lot of work into it. So does it add, like how much more stress does it add? And are you worried about, are you passing up opportunities to shoot a deer to get it on film?
So So when I had this idea of starting this channel, I started when I started filming last year, well, not this past year, 2 years ago was the first year I started filming.
Right.
And I definitely felt like hunting went from level 10 to level 20. Like it was just like, man, this is difficult to try and get all your processes down and get everything there. Now, there was one scenario, I haven't ever passed up on a deer because I'm filming. Like I haven't had that many opportunities that I'm like, no, I'm not shooting that deer because I'm film.
Okay.
But my process is when I see a deer, like first thing I do is cameras on. That's number one thing that I go for. And then second is my bow.
Yeah.
So it's an extra step, which is not great, which is motion, because last year I had there was a buck coming in a food plot. He was like 30 yards. And I didn't really move that much. I turned my camera on and I was just starting to reach for my bow and he blew. Like I hardly even did anything because my camera was like right in front of me. But I was also a foggy morning and I think I got like skyline.
Oh.
So I was in a muddy double stand, so he could pretty easily see that something was going on.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that was the camera or not, but it definitely, you have to, I don't want to have a scenario where it's like, I'm not shooting this deer because it's not on camera. But I also haven't had that happen to me, like a scenario where something like that has happened. So it makes it more complicated. For me, like at work, I make not hunting videos, but I make like real estate videos, basically.
Right.
So I enjoy videography and filming in general. So for me, it's like just icing on the cake.
Oh yeah, of course.
So
how much extra time do you give yourself to set up? Like how much? Like by the time you get to the bottom of your tree, and until you're right where you're hunt mode.
So in my climber, I need about 20 to 25 minutes from when I start climbing
Okay.
to when I get from the bottom of my tree till I'm like ready to go.
Yeah.
So a lot of times if I have the opportunity, I hunt at ladder stand because it's just
Right.
way
'Cause
easier.
it's easier.
Yeah. But it takes me.
Like, how much is camera? Like, so you add an extra 10 minutes for camera time?
Yeah, I would think so
15
because
minutes?
I have to get up, and if I don't have if I'm a climber, I got a screw hook in for
Right.
my camera arm first, and
Yeah.
then I put my camera arm on, strap that thing on, grab the actual arm piece, slide
Yeah.
that thing in, then grab the fluid head, spin that thing on, and then my camera on top of that.
Right.
So it's a lot of pieces, and my backpack is like ferociously heavy, but. It is a good camera arm. I have the Muddy Outfitter, I believe it's called.
Okay.
So
Nice.
I can like level everything, like make it nice and level, so that when I spin, it's nice
Right,
and
you
level.
got a
So
nice level
a lot of the
pan.
base models will be like when you spin, it's just kind of however it was. You can't really adjust
Right.
that at all.
Right.
So
Well, you can see it in your footage. I mean, that's quality footage too. So
yeah, and my
That's really
camera, the camera like I'm shooting on it right now, it's shooting in 4K, which helps so nice because like on that doe there, I knew that I could just zoom it all the way
Right.
and just stick it there, and it'll get this big angle, and then I can just zoom in and
Right.
post, and it makes it a whole lot easier. Whereas like last year, I was shooting with one that only shot in 1080, and I knew that I had to get it like perfect because I couldn't zoom anything to actually still have good footage. So
Well, and by the time like having a setup that you can just like turn on and pretty much, I mean, get set and then not have to worry about it as much is going to take a lot of that stress out of filming and stuff.
yeah, that's exactly right. Because the camera I was filming with last year was a DSLR camera, which has a little mirror in there. So when you go from photo to video mode, it like that camera clicks up,
Right.
and every time I turn my camera on, it go click. Like every time it was such a pain because it had to be careful. Like if the deer was too close, like I couldn't even turn my camera on because it would hear that. So this one here is it's a camcorder type, which is a mirrorless camera. So it doesn't have any of the mirrors that click or anything. It's super silent, and it's 20x optical zoom. So I have, well, from this same hunt, I have some really good footage of deer that are 150 yards, and I have like beautiful footage of them because they're way out there, and this thing just zooms way in there. And having it on a nice steady camera arm, I can get nice steady footage. So I'm hoping to get my 2022 recap video out here soon, and you'll see everything. Yeah, I'll just leave it there because I have an epic video of a hawk. That's all I'm gonna say. Okay.
All right.
That's all I'm gonna say. Anyway, Chad, thank you. Appreciate it coming on. Big
Thanks,
buck.
buddy. Yeah.
We got a doe down right here. This is the little doe, by the way. The littlest doe skull you ever did see.
I would say that would be right there.
Just, yeah. So.
That's awesome, man.
Yep. That was Film Room. Catch you later, right?
See you guys.